Welcome to the Vitamin Professor podcast, brought to you by VRM Media, publisher of Vitamin Retailer and Nutrition Industry Executive magazines, in partnership with Nutraland USA. I'm your host, Dr. Gene Bruno, Professor Emeritus of Nutraceutical Science and Chief Scientific Officer of Nutraland USA. Now, the purpose of this podcast is to help educate the dietary supplement industry about the science of nutraceuticals and other relevant topics. If you like what you hear and see, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our guest today, Dr. Annie George. Dr. Annie, of course, has been on the Vitamin Professor before, and we're glad to have her back. She has over 20 years experience in research. She joined Biotropics Malaysia in 2007, and she manages the research and development of herbal ingredients and nutraceuticals. She's managed 15 clinical trials on herbal products for efficacy and safety in the indication of men and women's health, glucose management, cognition, weight loss, and immune health. She also manages toxicology and preclinical proof of concept studies. Dr. Annie is currently the co-inventor for 16 patents filed on natural products. The latest being Uricoma longifolia, or Tongkat Ali, also known as LJ100, for immune health and other viral properties, and Polygona minus Kesem for memory. Prior to Biotropics, Annie also worked on natural products as antibiotics in a Japanese company. Prior to this, she's worked on tissue cultures of near extinct plants, such as the pitcher plant or monkey plant, and food crops. Dr. Annie has published several publications in peer-reviewed journals with a focus on herbal ingredients as health solutions, and often communicates research at conferences and media. Today, Dr. Annie is going to talk to us about LJ100. Now, she's talked a little bit about it before, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it, taking a slightly different angle. Welcome back, Dr. Annie.
Thank you, Gene. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. So, this is Menopause Awareness Month. So, just as a brief review, what exactly is menopause? When does it start, and how long does it last?
Okay, so menopause happens to every woman, especially as she reaches the age of 40 and above. Sometimes even earlier, women experience menopause, where it's termed as the cessation of menstruation for as long as 12 months. And then they have reached menopause. But the thing about menopause is that the symptoms of menopause is felt by women even before the cessation of the menstruation. They start feeling tired, night sweats, and even joint pains, because the estrogen levels tend to dip slowly as they reach menopause. So it can last for a couple of years for some women, and it can go on to even more, up to 10 years.
Wow. Okay. So, let's address this question, which again we talked a little bit about in a prior podcast, but since this is a new one, what is LJ100?
Okay, LJ100 is actually the water extract of root of the Tongkat Ali, where the scientific name of Tongkat Ali is Uricoma longifolia. It is a branded extract and is standardized to uricaminone, polysaccharides, total protein, and glycosaponin of a certain quantity. And what backs up this LJ100 is 20 clinical studies, some done in both men and women, some in men, and some totally on women. So it has several benefits, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about today.
Excellent. So, let's start with that. Since, again, this is Menopause Awareness Month, can you tell us a little bit about the research that's been done on LJ100 and menopause?
Sure. There's one of the research that is just published and is just hot out of the press. It's published in the World Journal of Clinical Cases. This study was done in women who were already experiencing menopausal symptoms. So the menstruation not necessarily ceased, but they were already beginning to feel the symptoms of menopause, such as joint pains and night sweats, etc. So we recruited these women in a clinical study, a placebo-controlled randomized clinical study, and conducted this in Malaysia together with the University of Malaysia. And what we we recruited them based on their moderate symptoms of menopausal symptoms, and we actually checked for menopausal quality of life. We looked at their hormones, and the ages of women were between 40 to 55 years of age, and almost 80% of them were premenopause. And what we found that with only 3 months of supplementation of LJ100, we used 2 doses, 50 milligrams and also 100 milligrams, and compared this with this placebo. We found that at the end of the 3 months, the menopausal symptoms reduced by 36%. And this was significant, yes. And the menopausal quality of life has 4 domains. One is the vasomotor symptoms, the other one is physical, sexual, and also psychosocial. And what we found was that the most significant improvements were in the domains of libido, sexual, and also the physical part of it. So they felt a lot more energetic, they had better, obviously they felt better in terms of joint pains, body aches. So yeah, it was really great study that we did and just published this.
That's actually quite fascinating, because a lot of times when you look at other remedies that are used, herbal remedies that are used for menopause, things like black cohosh, the major benefits are in the vasomotor, domains, like hot flashes, that kind of thing. Sure. A lot of them don't always address sort of those sexual health and other quality of life issues, certainly not to the extent that you're talking about. So that's really cool. That makes me think, as somebody who formulates products, that makes me think this could be a fantastic addition to any existing menopause formulas that maybe have stuff that addresses those kind of symptoms, to be able to combine this together and have a much broader, more holistic approach to menopause. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a real positive development in nutraceuticals for women going through menopause. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, and I also want to add, we also looked at the profile of mood scores. So the profile of mood scores, we have things like checking for tension, depression, anger, vigor, fatigue. And in all of these domains, we saw an improvement, and especially at the dose of 100 milligrams. In fact, we saw that the total mood disturbances reduced by 38%. So they felt a lot better in terms of their mood as well. And we know that, in menopausal women, this is also a very important area, because they tend to have anxiety, depression if it's not taken care of. So we saw a lot of improvement in this area as well.
Wow. At just 100 milligrams?
At just 100 milligrams.
That's pretty cool, because I know that a lot of the research that's been done that I've seen for other purposes are like 200 milligrams, sometimes more. So 100 milligrams, that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's a little bit about LJ100 and menopause. But what are some of the other studies on LJ100 specifically for women?
So actually, this was one of the recent menopausal studies that we did. We actually did one even earlier. And that was a study that we did with KGK Science, and was published in 2020. And that group of women were more of the peri and postmenopausal women. And even in this group, we saw the similar kinds of improvements. But in addition, we saw the reduction of hot flash. We saw we saw the reduction of hot flash. And we also saw there was a bit of hormone modulation as well. We saw improvements in bioavailable testosterone, and we also saw some reduction in luteinizing hormone and also FSH. So the thing about menopausal women is the LH and the FSH tend to increase to actually trigger the ovaries to produce estrogen and testosterone. But the thing is, because the ovaries is not functioning as efficient, so the FSH and the LH tends to be at a high level, whereas the estrogen tends to be at a really low level. So that kind of imbalance happens, which actually contributes to the vasomotor symptoms that they have. But in this study, we saw that it was reduced. So the FSH reduced, the LH reduced, and there was a slight improvement in testosterone and also estrogen, which actually brought the hormonal balance back. And that we could see that the women were feeling a lot better In fact, their menopausal symptoms reduce as a result of that.
That's pretty cool. I like the idea that you're able to, I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of smooth out some of those rough spots, kind of create a better balance in the hormones with LJ100. So, and it, based on the current research and the previous research, it sounds like that that LJ100 has research supporting its use for menopause, perimenopause, postmenopausal symptoms. Just that whole gamut.
And in fact, even in the older women, the perimenopause and also postmenopausal women, we saw an improvement in terms of the LDLs and also triglycerides. We saw that, that reduced in this group that took the supplementation. So in terms of cardiovascular health, there's also potential there because, as women tend to lose, when they lose their estrogen, these things start to creep up. The cardiovascular health comes to a point where that's an area that we want to look into.
Absolutely, especially considering the fact that cardiovascular health, like you say, is becoming more of an issue in menopausal women. To have those additional benefits is a real value-added component.
Sure.
So, I was wondering about something. We're talking about menopause here, but let's move a decade or two earlier.
Sure.
So, there's a lot of couples today that are struggling with infertility, and they're trying to do in vitro fertilization. They're spending thousands of dollars to try to become pregnant. It's a huge industry. I'm just wondering, given the effects of LJ100 on hormonal balance, do you think that there might be any applicability of LJ100 to women's fertility or even men's fertility for that matter?
Definitely, Gene. I mean, we've seen this in clinical studies, and these were the studies that we did a couple of years ago in men, and we saw that upon the supplementation of 200 milligrams up to 300 milligrams in two separate studies, we saw that the sperm profile actually improved. And these are couples that came to the doctor because they couldn't have kids and they had idiopathic infertility. So the doctors thought of supplementing them with LJ100. And we found that the semen volume improved, the sperm morphology improved as well. Sometimes you tend to have sperms with a head and not the tail. So they're unhealthy sperm morphology. So we found that that's an improvement in sperm morphology up to 90%, improvement in the semen volume up to 20%. And in fact, even in the sperm motility, that also improved in 44%. And because of that, the couples that came in, they could actually have spontaneous pregnancy. And for those who didn't, and for those who didn't, the doctor was able to do the artificial insemination, picking out healthy sperms. I mean, he had more to pick from because of that. So it's a great finding, and we have been talking about this to people, to those who have issues with infertility. This is something that that they can actually try out.
That's amazing. That's great. Thank you for that. So another thing that just crossed my mind, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. There are a number of women out there who are experiencing it. And for our listeners who may or may not know what that is, you have some elevated androgen levels in those women. And my question is, given that LJ100 has been shown to be beneficial in helping with testosterone levels, is that something that women with PCOS should avoid, or could it be potentially beneficial given its balancing benefits?
Yeah, but think about women with PCOS and even with women with fibroids. They are actually visiting the family doctor, and the family doctor would actually, because the thing is, PCOS could be caused by a lot of things. It could be something that's genetic. It could be because of excess androgens. It could be because of insulin resistance, and that causing an increase in insulin production, which leads to more androgen being produced. So the doctor may actually, prevent them from actually taking something like this. And I think it's good to check with the family doctor, but I just want to bring up one study that was done. And this was done actually in 2012, where they used the rat models, and where this female rat were actually induced with PCOS. And then they were administered a fraction of this Tongkat Ali extract. It is actually a fraction containing uricaminone and uricaminone related compounds. They're called quasinoids. And when these animals, so there were three arms. So one is, the ones that is not treated, and the other one which is induced with PCOS with synthetic testosterone, and the other one which is induced with synthetic testosterone plus the Tongkat Ali extract. And we saw that the PCOS occurrence or follicular damage occurrence were reduced up to 65% in the group that was supplemented with this fraction. So we have data to show that it is actually helpful in balancing the hormones, because it's not like an external testosterone, right? It's something that actually
certainly not.
So
and I think
yeah.
I think that's a good point too. Is that I've actually had people ask me before about various herbal remedies, particularly ones that are have some value for enhancing testosterone. That's saying, "Oh, should women not use it because it's going to increase testosterone?" And my response to that has always been like, "Look, you're not. It's not like taking synthetic testosterone, where it's going to have huge amounts. The amounts are much less in terms of increase. But now with what you're saying, this actually helped in the balance of that. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, so interesting. So of course, women with PCOS or PCOS are generally younger than women who are going through menopause, and so that has a benefit to them. But are there any other benefits for younger women in using LJ100 compared to a woman experiencing menopause?
Yeah, of course. In younger women, it acts as a hormone balancer. The thing is, in younger women, those who have an active lifestyle, those who are executives or working, sports women, especially those who are into active sports, sometimes there is an increase in cortisol production. And if you're stressed, there is an increase with cortisol production. So it actually acts as a hormone balancer. So in that sense, for the younger women, this would be helpful in terms of energy, in terms of, that the extra surge of energy that you need to manage daily life. And as opposed to for women who are nearing menopause, where it's something that helps them to regulate their hormones, feel better, less fatigue, less joint pains, and also less vasomotor symptoms.
Very good. And now, do I understand correctly, one of the things you just said is that actually help in reducing those elevated cortisol levels that are associated with stress?
Yes, that's right. Because we actually have studies on this. We've noticed that, in fact, one of the studies that was done in US back in the day with Dr. Sean Talbot, where he actually looked at subjects who were moderately stressed, and they were both men and women. And he looked at them and he supplemented them with 200 milligrams of LJ100 over a period of 1 month. And looking at the profile of mood scores, found that they had less tension, less anger, less confusion, and in addition to that, the cortisol levels dropped and the testosterone levels improved. So we've seen that improvement there. And in fact, even in sporting individuals, those who were into mountain biking, very aggressive sports, which is 24-hour mountain biking, so there would be a tendency of the cortisol to increase. Even then, it was actually balanced out with the supplementation. So therefore, they were more in an anabolic state instead of the catabolic state induced by cortisols.
Awesome. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about LJ100 here, but I wanted to ask, since, again, we've been talking about women here. Are there any other ingredients that, HP Ingredients has that you think could benefit women?
Sure. There is another ingredient. It's called IQ200. It's actually based off, the other name for it is biocosm in the other parts, non-US parts of the world, where this IQ200 is actually based off a herb which is used in cooking. So it's used, it's like in the noodle, is used in cooking fish in the local cuisine. And this particular leaf, the extract of it has been shown to improve memory. We've seen improvement in memory, we've seen improvement, in fact, it has an anti-inflammatory effect. So we have about 5 clinical studies just on this. In fact, the clinical studies are on subjects that have mild cognitive impairment, so they already start to have, the forgetfulness. And we've seen that the brain-derived neurotrophic factor increase. So now this is actually needed to have new neurons developed. We find that the acetylcholine increase. This is the building blocks of the brain cells. We also see that the MDA and INOS, the markers for inflammation reduce. So we know that these are the mechanism of action for this ingredient, and the outcome we have seen in that they have better cognitive flexibility, they have better executive function, their attention is better. So we've seen a remarkable improvement with IQ200.
So with IQ200, does it play any role in sort of, let's say, a calming role, and could that help for, for sleep applications?
Definitely, Gene, because in fact, one of the questions that we asked the subjects were actually the profile of mood scores, and we found that there's up to 50% reduction, especially in one of the domains, which is in the domain of anger. So, and when you look at it totally, it is up to almost 40% reduction in the symptoms of mood disturbances. So they felt a lot better. It was really calming, and once it's calming, then definitely it would lead to a better sleep. Not too stressed thinking about the day-to-day events.
Again, as a formulator, I can't help but think how that could be a great addition to any existing sleep formula. Let's say somebody is using melatonin, or they're using valerian, or whatever it might be, that using the IQ200 could have a complementary effect, because it's not the same mechanism of action. It's a different mechanism of action, and you could add it to that and maybe get a deeper, more restorative sleep as a result. So I like that. That's pretty interesting. So now my mind is going, and I'm thinking maybe could there be any synergistic or complementary effects when taking LJ100 and IQ200 together with regard to, mood or energy or intimacy or anything?
Sure, Gene, that's a great question. In fact, in the earlier days, we did a study combining LJ100 with IQ200, and we found that in men these were men who had mild ED, and we wanted to look at the quality of life and want to see whether it could improve, their sexual life as well. And the reason we added the LJ100 at that time, this study was done in 2012. So the reason we added at that time was because IQ200 is really high in antioxidants. So we knew that this is something that could actually protect their reproductive health. So we combined it together with LJ100, and we saw a remarkable improvement in their sexual performance and also in their quality of life, because they felt better. And subsequent to that was when we investigated just the IQ200 alone. And that's when we noticed that, the improvement is, far-reaching. We've seen it in anti-inflammatory effects. We've seen that it has immune-enhancing effects. And the one that's most prominent is with the ability to calm and also to improve memory. So there is a synergistic effect that we saw in this earlier study. And In fact, back here in Malaysia, we have formulations where we combine IQ 200 together with LJ100 and other herbs as well to improve the physical and also the mental well-being of especially the professional group, the executives. So the improvement is really remarkable.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so one of the things, just to jump back to the LJ100 for a moment, that I wanted to have you mention is this. I'm always looking at new research and new surveys, not just what does an herb do for good health, but what things are important to consumers. And more we're seeing that issues of like ethical sourcing are important to consumers. They want to know that the product that they're using is ethically obtained. Can you address sort of like LJ100 and ethical sourcing? Because I know there's something there worth mentioning.
Sure. The LJ100 at the moment, we collect the Tongkat Ali from the wild, and the only person that can actually collect it from the wild is the aboriginals of the country. And the aborigines are actually trained, they're called the Orang Asli, they're actually trained to collect, when they collect the root of the plant, they are supposed to plant back 4 seedlings into that site. So they are trained to actually germinate the fruits into seedlings. We have a nursery that we have with them, and they're trained to plant back into the forest, into the surrounding area whenever they harvest this plant. And not only that, we also train them how to process the root. So it's not like they just collect the root and give it to us, because we also help them in their economic well-being. We train them how to wash it, cut it, chip it, ground it, and then give it to us. So when they pass it to us, it's of a higher value. And so we constantly have this training program with the Orang Asli to ensure that the seedlings are planted back, not only in the area where they live, but also in the area that they harvest.
Wow, cool. So for those of you listening who are interested in formulating products and being able to tell a story of ethical sourcing, yeah, you certainly have that with LJ100. So for couples who are listening, how might LJ100 and IQ200 work together to boost both male and female performance and connection?
Sure. So for men, it's something that can actually improve their quality of life, their sexual performance, and also their mental health. And for women, it is something that it'll be particularly important for women's mental health as well, and also their quality of life. Especially, they do not need to wait till they are reaching menopause, but it's something that can be taken even before to maintain their mental health and also their quality of life and physical health as well.
Yeah, and I think you make an important point there. A lot of times, most of the time actually, people will tend to use a natural supplement when a problem occurs and they're looking to correct it. But the old adage is a ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and it would be best if a person started using some of these things early on, before there's any issue, to help maintain balance and help when these issues do occur, or something as natural as menopause occurs. It maybe helps to, again, smooth out those rough spots and make whatever is going on just that much easier. So thank you for that. Now, how can anybody that is interested in learning more about LJ100 and IQ200, how can they learn more about it and maybe try it for themselves?
Sure. If anyone is going to anyone who's listening to this is going to Supply Site Global, please look out for Herbal Ingredients, HP Ingredients, booth at the site, or you can just go to the website, HP Ingredients, and they'll be able to help you.
Very good. Well, Dr. Annie, thank you so much. This has been a very enlightening day. I know I've learned a few new things about LJ100 and IQ200. And to those of you who are listening, if you like what you heard, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So thank you, Dr. Annie, and I'll see the rest of you next time on The Vitamin Professor.
Thank you, Gene.